Dan Schneider has broken his silence following the release of an explosive documentary which made shocking claims about the toxic environment at Nickelodeon during his tenure. The former executive producer, in an interview shared to his own YouTube account which has been dormant for more than 3 years. The 19-minute video saw Schneider discuss ID's quiet on-set documentary released at the weekend, which he said had made him face his past behaviors. Schneider admitted that had previously overstepped professional boundaries and conceded he owed some people a pretty strong apology. Schneider, who was previously described as Nickelodeon's golden boy, began by addressing the furor head-on as he explained, "Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret. I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology." Schneider, who began working at the network in 1993, is said to have launched the careers of child actors who became major stars including Miranda Cosgrove, Jamie Lynn Spears, and Ariana Grande. But he was later flooded with allegations before being sued over accusations of gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and harassment, many of which were divulged in the new documentary. It wasted little time in dishing that the period of the 1990s and 2000s marked one of the darkest chapters, writer Scotchy Cole said. Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgin were hired as co-writers for The Amanda Show and split a single salary, as the network got 2 writers for the price of 1. It was early on when we first started that Dan said he didn't think women were funny, Christy said. He had fostered this very casual, fun atmosphere, but I felt that Dan could be very volatile and could turn any moment. I was scared. She said that staff were left feeling paranoid and uncomfortable, concluding, "Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship." Jenny also dished on having a similar experience, sharing that he didn't really value women in the writer's room. But that was not all, because dishing on the depths of the inappropriate behavior at the channel, she claimed, Dan was showing me on his computer screen. He asked me several times to massage him in the writer's room and in the studio. You always felt like disagreeing with Dan or standing up for yourself could result in getting fired. One of the worst, we were in the writer's room and Christy was talking about high school, which is relevant because we are writing for a young girl. And Dan just said, "You know what would be funny? If you leaned over the table and acted like you were being sodomized and told that story about high school." Jenny said that Christy had initially said no, but Dan kept insisting and she couldn't get out of it. So she just leaned over the table and did what he asked her to do. It was upsetting to watch because I knew Christy at this point, and I didn't feel at all comfortable complaining to him. She concluded, "It was probably the wrongest thing I have ever seen happen to a woman in a professional environment ever." Christy herself declined to talk about the incident, but remarked that she felt sorry for her former self as she was just a young woman at the time. Ultimately, after quitting her role at the network, Jenny decided to sue Dan because she didn't want it to happen to other women in the future. "I hired a lawyer and started blowing whistles. My lawyer filed complaints against the production company for gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment. And in response, they did an internal investigation and they settled. But it had a lasting impact on my career. To learn that it didn't stop and that it was all for nothing." She branded him as a psychological tormentor and a manipulator before claiming his treatment caused her to suffer panic attacks, anxiety, and develop a heart arrhythmia. Addressing the widespread reports of inappropriate behavior in the writer's room, Schneider said, "Let me just say no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room. Ever. Period. The end."
No excuses.
Most TV writers, comedy writers, have been in writer rooms, and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. He continued, "I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my first experiences in the entertainment business. I was green, I was scared, I was excited. It meant the world to me that I was getting those opportunities, and I went in and I got lucky because they were great. My first couple of experiences were fantastic, and the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my door, it hurts my heart because I should have. I wish I could go back and fix that," Schneider conceded. In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond tee-hee pale, and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far. That was wrong, and that was because I was an inexperienced producer. I was immature. It wouldn't happen today, but I'm just really sorry it happened. Elsewhere, he also apologized for his frequent requests for massages from female members of staff while in the studio. It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anyone in that position. It was wrong to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation," Schneider said. Additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around because there were lots of people who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable, so I owe them an apology as well. Boog! He urged Schneider to directly address the people who did not have a good experience working for him as he dished. "I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time. I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do. I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do." Watching Quiet on Set. There were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, "I'm so sorry and let's talk about it, and I wish you had a better time, and I wish I could have shown you a better experience." The documentary had also explained that Nickelodeon had raised eyebrows under Schneider's leadership with some of its shows that were full of uncomfortable sketches. Among them were disturbing scenes that child stars, including Ariana Grande, who featured in scenes sticking her hand down her throat, putting her toes in her mouth, and talking about being soaking wet at the age of 16. In conclusion, Dan Schneider, the former Nickelodeon producer, has publicly addressed the allegations made against him in the documentary Quiet on Set. He has expressed regret and embarrassment for his past behaviors, acknowledging that some of his actions were inappropriate and that he owes apologies to those affected. Schneider has also called for the removal of certain jokes from reruns of his shows, which are now seen as content. He emphasized that all content on his shows underwent careful review and approval by the network. Additionally, Schneider responded to specific allegations made in the documentary, including those related to actor Drake Bell.